this is React 30-day challenge, and we are probably at day 20 or 22. So I don't think so we will be able to complete it in 30 days, but yes, I can assure you if you follow the 30 days or all the videos, you will be good enough to go for any job interviews, or you can say that you know React. So let's get started. Today we will going to learn about state a component's memory. So if you have ever worked on React, the most important part of React is the state, which is and the most confusing part as well, because some most of the time, like for me, I am always confused when and where to use state and how to use that. So let's see how we can solve this problem in this video. Components often need to change what's on the screen as a result of interaction. So first thing we need to keep in mind, like you need to create state only for interactions. Okay, when I say interactions, you need to create state for those variable whose value will change whenever user interact with it. So you need to create state for those variable whose value will going to change based on a user interaction. So that is first our why, or where you have to use state. Create state for only those variable whose value will going to change whenever there is an interaction with the user. Typing into the form should update the input field. Clicking next on the image carousel should change which image is displayed. Clicking buy should put the product in the shopping cart. So all these are the examples of user interaction could happen in your application. Component needs to remember things: the current input value, the current image, the shopping cart. And in React, this kind of component specific memory is called state. Now, it's a very logical way to think. Suppose a user or you interact with any application, like you suppose you go to Amazon and click any item you want to buy, and it will go to your shopping cart. So there are certain updation, not only updation on your code side, like you have to create a variable where you will add the value, what is the value. You need to show that updation as well on your screen. Now when you want to show an updation on the screen, you need to re-render your application again. And we know whenever we re-render our application, all the variables present in our application will reset to the initial value. So we need something, okay, some piece of code which remembers the present value or the current value before the re-render happened, so that we can use that current value in our application, and that's where state comes in the picture. So I'm gonna copy this in our React notes. It's a very important responding to events. Okay, I'm gonna create an h3 here, toggle, and its name will be states. So if you haven't watched any other videos, I would really recommend to go up there, like setting up your React, quick intro. Thinking in React is very important because it will give you an idea how to approach React. And the next most important part is actually states, no doubt. And I will share the link of this in my description, so you can go and access this note, and you can just read it. And once this is done, I will write an article as well on it, so you can just go and read that, but once we are finished with this. Okay, what we will learn: how to add a state variable using use state hook, what pairs of values use state hooks return, how to add more than one state variable, why state is called local. Okay, these are all very important part of use state. We will know how to use it, what it will return as a pair, and how to add more than one variable state, and why it is called local. So why the state is called local could be a very good interview question. The interviewer can ask you why a state is called local, and we will going to see what is the answer for that. When a regular variable isn't enough. So when you should use state when your regular variable is not enough. Okay, here's a component that renders a sculpture per image. Okay, so this is the upper component. The name is gallery. Okay, now gallery, on the click of button, they're showing various sculptures and information about them. Awesome. Clicking next button should show the next sculpture by changing the index to 1, then 2, and so on. So basically what they are saying here is where did the button go? Yeah, if I click on this, it should move to the next sculpture, but this is not working yet, and we will see why. So if you click on next, it is not working. The handler click event handler is updating a local variable called index. Okay, so if you click on next, and where is our next button? I can't find it. Yeah, this is here, line 13. Let's show more. Yep, on click handle clicks. So if you don't know what event handler is, again I will recommend you to go to the previous video where we have discussed about it, and then come back to this so you will have a better clarity. So on click calls handle click, and in handle click we are updating index +1. Index is a local variable. Okay, now let's see why this is not working. Local variable don't persist between renders. So whenever there is a re-render, your local variable value will be resetted to their initial value. They won't hold their current value. When React render this component a second time, it renders it from scratch. It does not consider change to the local variable. Changes to the local variable won't trigger the renders. So these are the very two important point where local variables fails, and that's why we are using state. First is local variable don't persist between the renders. So if you re-render your application or refresh your page, whenever I say re-render, you will lose all the information or whatever the logic you have done and added to your local variable. The changes to local variable won't trigger re-render. So second thing which happens, what is happening in our case is basically here whenever we click this, the index is updating, index is becoming 1, but this is already being rendered. We can already see this in our screen, and to have the current value of this variable, we need to re-render it. Okay, we need to somehow tell our JSX, dude, look, I have updated my index, you need to use my current index, and there is no way you can do it with the local variables, and that is why we use state. Okay, so this is also a very important point. I'm going to copy this as well in our notes. So while local variables are not enough, and these are the reason. Okay, to update a component with a new data, two things needs to happen. Retain the data between the renders. Okay, this is very important. When we want to update a component, we need to first retain the data, and then we need to re-render it. Trigger React to render the component with new data or re-rendering it. That is what I've been continuously telling. To update your component or to update your UI screen, you need to do two things. First, you need to retain your data whenever there is a change or user interaction is there. Then you need to show that data to your screen using re-rendering, and use state does that. Use state provide those two things. A state variable retain the data between the renders. A state setter function update the variable and trigger the render React to render the component again. So basically what useState does, it saves your current data and then it asks the React to re-render your application and add the current data to your screen. That's why useState is very, very, very useful. So I'm going to add this as well. Oops. So here's the thing, like if you have used React previously or you have used React few years back, you must have used class components, not function components. Why we used to have class components is because we never had used state hooks, to add hooks, to add states and update state. All these things was made possible using this use state hook. That's why we can now create a full-fledged component using function components instead of class. Now we are done with our why. We are done why we should use it. Why? First of all, local variables are not good enough. They do not store that current value. They do not trigger the re-render. All these things are done by using useState. Adding state variable. To add a state variable, import useState from React at the top of the file. Now we know why. Let's go with how to implement this. So first step you need to do is to import your useState from React. So React is a library you will be using in your application, and React library has a useState function which you can just import it. Then what they are doing, how to convert this example to state. So okay, they are telling this part. They are saying how to add your state and retain and make this next functionality here actually workable. So let's do that. So they are saying first you need to import use state from the React. Let's do that. I'm gonna import my use state from React. Oops, this one is wrong. Okay. Now what they are saying, then replace this line let index equal to 0 with constant index set index use state. So how to add use state to your component? You need to write two variables in a square bracket. Index will have your current value and set index will be used to add the updated value. And whenever you call set index, there will be re-render of your JSX or re-render of your component. So index is a state variable and set index is the setter function. Okay. So let's add that. We're going to remove this one. They are saying to remove this and create a function here. I will write index and a setter variable here, and I will write a setter function index. Okay, I'm going to write use state. I'm going to put it as 0. Now this 0 is the initial value index variable will be holding. You can give anything you want. You can even keep it null. It's totally up to you. Let's see whether they explain this or not. Index is a state. Now, the square bracket syntax here is called array destructuring. So basically what you're doing, whatever use state is returning, you are breaking up or open up that return object or value and create your own variable, and it lets you read the value from an array. The array returned by use state always has exactly 2 items. So what they're saying, whenever you call a use state, now whenever I call use state, it should be, I'm not sure whether you guys have noticed or not, it's a function. Okay, whatever inside in your small bracket is a function. So basically use state is a function. Here I'm sending the initial value or the parameter value, and it will do certain logic which we don't have to worry about, and that certain logic will return an array. Okay, now that array is re or destructured here. So we, or what we did, whatever we are returning as a return object array, we just opened it and we are adding first index value to this variable and the second value to set index. And this format is used for all the hooks. Okay, this is not this is not common to use state. Even if you try to create your own custom hooks, which you can, by the way, you have to return two variables, or you have to return an array with two elements. First will be your variable and second will be your setter function. Okay, now where were we? Okay, so this is very important. The syntax here is array destructuring and it is used by learn state. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna add this as well. Don't worry, I'm gonna, make it look more good, more readable. So whatever you will be reading will be more organized. Don't worry. Okay, if it looks little havoc right now. This is how they work together and handle click. So now what we have to do, whenever user click the button, we need to update the state, or we need to set the new value to the variable. So how we can do that? We need to use setter function, which is set index, and you just need to increase your previous index value by 1. So let's do that. So this is what our function is. Here they are updating it. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to write set index here. Yes, this is my setter function. This is my previous value of index. Like, this is the one which is actually being shown before the click of the button. And if I click on 1, it will show you the next image. Okay, let's see, we are done with this button. And this is how handle click together. Let's see whether this is working or not. Voila, it's working. You can see the new image, Polaris Generica by Edurado Catalano. I'm so sorry if I butchered this name as badly as this is. So I'm an Indian, so I have a very thick Indian accent, which sometimes get mixed with the British accent as well, depending on the TV series I'm watching currently. So yeah, my apologies if my accent is way too exotic or sometimes difficult to understand. You can always open subtitles, to see what exactly I'm trying to say. And if this doesn't help, just type it in the comment. What I'll do, I'll give you a script as well. So basically it works. Now the Eternal Presence by John Woodrow Wilson. We can see the third image. Fourth is Moai by unknown artist. Fifth is Blue Nana by Nikki de Sant Pale. Okay, that's interesting name. Okay. Oh, Nana it's a god. Okay, no disrespect. Ultimate form of Barbara Hepworth. This is awesome. So this is how you can update a state using an event. We did this. This is what the result they were showing, if you are able to do that, which we were. Now let's go. So we know what we have done till now. We know how, why, and how. Now they are saying meet our first hook. Okay, so what we were doing before that, don't know. In React, use state as well as any other function starting with use is called a hook. People, pay attention. In React, use state as well as any other function starting with use is called a hook. So basically this use, if you have a function with the name starting with use, is basically a hook, and for a hook you have to return an array with two items. One will be the variable and second will be the setter function. Hooks are the special function that are only available while React is rendering. Okay, so what is a hook? Hook is a special function which will only be available while React is rendering. We will get into it more details on next page. They let you hook into different React features. So why they are called a hook? Because they let you hook into different React features. State is just one of those features, but you will meet the other hooks later as well. So I'm gonna write this as well in our notes. It's a very important topic to be, you know, do that. Um, okay. Second thing is, if you feel like you can write a better notes, just hit me in the comment, or in the comment I will reach out to you, and we can work on this, making a good resource for anyone who want to learn React. Okay, the pitfall is hook function starting with use can only be called at the top of the level of your component or your own hook. You can't call hook inside the condition, loops, or nested function. Hooks are the function, but it helps to think them as unconditional declaration about your component's need. So basically, what hooks are, they may be a function, but they are the most important needs of your component. So it is important you should always and always declare them at the top. You use React feature at the top of components, similar to how you import modules at the top of the file. So like import, you always put them at the top of your file. In the same way, hooks you need to write at the top of your component, just after your component function. So this is also pretty important. I'm going to copy this as well. Anatomy of use state. When you call use state, you're telling React that you want this component to remember something. So there is a constant index, set index, use state is 0. In this case, you want to React to remember index. The convention is to name this pair as like constant, something like set something. So how to write an index? You need to write your variable name, whatever it is, but it can be, it cannot be anything. It should be something relevant to what you're doing. Why? Because not only you will be working on your code, other people will be also working on your code. So it's better they understand what exactly you want to do. And I don't know about you, but I have such a bad memory. I keep forgetting what I have done. So suppose if you go back again to your code, you should understand what you actually did it. So yeah, you could name it anything you like, but convention makes it easier to understand. So basically what they're saying, you need to write your component variable name, and then you need to write and set and that variable name, so that you will actually know what variable you are setting. Because suppose if you have multiple states present in your component, it will be very difficult to remember which set function is used for which variable. So this is something I'm gonna add as well, just in case you don't know about this. The only argument to use state is the initial value of a use state variable. So as you have seen earlier, whenever we declare use state, you can give an initial value like 0, which we have given here. Every time your component render, use state gives you an array of containing 2 values. So use state will have 2 values, one with the state variable index with the current value, and second is the setup function to update that value. Okay, so let's see what happened when we wrote that code. Your component renders the first time. Okay, so whenever we load our component, like whenever the first image was showing, our index value will become 0. Okay, because that is the initial value we have sent. You update the state when you user click the button. So whenever user click the next button, it calls set index function. It updated the index with +1. Now the index, so here the index value is 0. So the set index is 1. So it tells the React the index is now 1. It triggers another render. Okay, now in the second render, React will see use state as 0, but because React, remember, you set the index to 1, it will return 1 instead of 0. So this is something, if it is not very clear why this is happening, do you know how the functions are written? Like you can add a default value to a parameter, right? But if you send a value to a parameter, that default value does not you know used. In the same way, if the React state has already have some value, that is one, the default value or the initial value will not affect that, and so on. Okay, so was the part one of it, what and why to use React. In the next section, we will see giving a component how to handle multiple state variables, um, why state is isolated and private. We will going to go for a quick recap and try out some challenges. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye, take care.